Hello and welcome to the Dr. Elisa Show here on KUHS Denver, the stream. Have you had a good week? I haven't talked to you. Actually, it's been 2 weeks since I talked to you. I hope you're doing well. I hope I've also adjusted all my technology correctly. You know, I mess that up sometimes at the beginning of the show. I have a great show for you today, and I'm so glad you've tuned in. If it's your first time, the doctor's real. It is in psychology, not an MD, but it gives me an interesting kind of edge in talking to people. I have an amazing guest who I'll tell you about in a minute, but this show is about igniting a renaissance of spirit within you. It is hopefully by the time you leave this show, you feel a little bit inspired. We've moved that needle in the world from fear to inspiration. Give you a sense that, yeah, there's something out there that I want to try, something I want to do. And I'd love to hear from you, by the way. If there's a topic or a person or something you'd like to hear about, let me know. My background, for those of you who are just joining me for the first time, I've got all these academic degrees. I've been a geologist, an academic dean, a psychologist, and now I'm a radio host and an astrologer, believe it or not. Also an author. You can find my first novel on Amazon, The Way of the Well. It is a spiritual adventure with a lot of romance mixed in. The second one I'm hoping to have out in August. I also have a leadership book called Pirate Wisdom. So leadership a la Johnny Depp and or Jimmy Buffett. And of course you can work with me one-on-one. I work in a kind of astrology called evolutionary astrology. And what I do is help you find your soul's craving. I work with individuals. I also do couples charts. I don't predict. I do not predict. I hopefully give you guidance, the kind of guidance that you just can launch yourself off of. So, lots of ways to find me. ElisaRobin.com is my website. I'm on Facebook, Elisa Robin. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. Sometimes I'm on Pinterest, but I'm easy to find. So, thank you for joining me. I want to do a shout out to a charity that I'm sponsoring this year, and that is the MS Society. And you know, one of my goals for all of us on this show is to be a philanthropist. Now, believe me, you can donate $1 a week, $52 a year, and make a change. Find a charity you love, and even just put that $1 a week away into an envelope. And at the end of the year, or maybe the end of 6 months, the end of every month, donate it. It can change the life of an animal or a person. It can help change the direction of your neighborhood. There's so much we can do. So this month, or actually this year, I'm fundraising for the MS Society. If you would like to join me in doing that, you can go to the MS Hike in Colorado 2021 and look for me and donate to the MS Hike. You can also find that on my Facebook site, and on my Instagram and everywhere else site. So that's me. That's the introduction. Let me tell you that one of the reasons I'm so passionate about MS is it's an invisible disease, and it's very mysterious. I have friends with it, and my brother passed away 11 years ago from the disease itself and from the reaction to the meds. And research, because of fundraising, has gone so far. So think about donating. Okay, let me go with a guest. I think I've talked enough about myself. So as you know, I bring people on who've inspired me. Either I've read their book or I saw a TED Talk. This one's really interesting. There's a show that I got addicted to. It's called Say Yes to the Dress Atlanta. And I got addicted because of the woman who was, whose show it is, whose store it is, Lori Allen. And I'm watching the show, and occasionally her daughter shows up on the show. And I got really interested in her daughter, so I Googled her and found out that she had started her own business, that she's an entrepreneur. She created a business. She went to college, she had a career, but she started her own business, and she has this interesting blend of entrepreneurial spirit and sort of classic Southern grace and charm. And you're on her website, which is White Label Studios, you'll see that everybody who works there has a spiritual focus, even though the business is PR and focuses a lot on furnishings and floorings and not what you would think of. But you wouldn't hook those things together. I got way inspired by this woman, and she said she'd come on the show. This is Mollie, and Mollie, hi, thank you for being here. I am going to let you introduce yourself. What I want to know is you have found a way to inspire other people and bring your inspiration to your job. Can you just talk about your path and your journey for a bit?
Yes, first of all, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I've got my Starbucks in hand. I'm always a tired working mama, and as Dolly Parton says, I've got to have my cup of ambition. But anyway, I'm so excited to be on the show and share with you some of my story, and hopefully it inspires other women and other entrepreneurs. But I worked, of course, growing up at Bridals by Lori, my family business. Bridals by Lori is one of the largest bridal salons in the nation. Beautiful, over 25,000 square foot facility in Atlanta. And really, I watched my mom. She started the store right after college. She had me a couple years later. So I was born into the Bridals by Lori empire, if you will. And it started out as a small boutique, and then it grew and grew and grew into what it is today. And I watched my parents balancing working parenthood while growing this business. And I mean, it was many weekends, all hands on deck, where I'm working in the store hanging dresses. We're talking about moving into a bigger store. I really got a front row seat to what it takes to make a business successful. And I've always carried that with me. I did work at the store for a few years after college. I studied journalism and mass communication at a small southern college called Stanford University. Got a great education there. And then joined the family business, which was a little unexpected after college. I really enjoyed it, but my mom and I are both like stamps of each other. So for those of you who worked in family business, you're probably giggling a little bit right now, because we had our amazing moments, and then we had moments where we were like, you know, cat fights. If you can imagine, you probably see, if you ever see us together on Say Yes to the Dress, you might see some references to that relationship. So anyhow, I think my mom and I both realized that I love the bridal industry, but I love marketing the most. That's really what my true passion was. It was what I studied. So all that being said, I decided to kind of follow my path in the marketing realm. So I worked in corporate marketing for 15 years, got married, had 2 little girls, and I loved working in corporate. I worked in a Berkshire Hathaway company, and then I worked in a Fortune 500 company after that. So I really got the internal politics side, the working with all kinds of different clients and stakeholders in the marketing realm. And then about 4 years ago, my husband's an executive in the flooring industry, travels a lot, right? And we have these 2 beautiful little girls. I'm working all the time, traveling a lot as well. And I'm starting to see my youngest child kind of start to think that the nanny is her mom. Right? A lot of us working moms have had that moment where we're like, wait a minute, like I'm mommy here. What's happening? And I really saw that my children had some needs that weren't being met. My oldest has ADHD and anxiety. She just really needed mom around more. So I started to really reevaluate my priorities and want to look at my life holistically. My goal had been to be a VP of digital marketing at the Fortune 500 company I was at. And I was right there in the interview process for that role. So my professional dream was happening. However, I still felt really empty inside, and something wasn't right. So I didn't even talk to my husband about this. I don't know if you all have ever had that aha moment where you're like, it's time to rip off the Band-Aid. So my husband and I had several what-if conversations, but nothing final. And there was a day, it was a Friday, that I just didn't agree. It had been a really rough day, and I decided I'm not going to live my life this way anymore. I'm going to take back my life and build a life that I love, that I'm proud of, and that serves my whole family. So I ended up resigning that day, and I called my husband after, and he's like, what? You know, there might have been a few four-letter words that followed. I'll spare you all. It was a nice Christian Southern lady. But it was the best thing I've ever done. And if I didn't rip off the Band-Aid that way, when the passion really hit me, I don't know if I ever would have done it. I think I would have just talked it to death. So I went to work. I enjoyed my weekend. You know, tears, laughter, glasses of wine. Oh my gosh, what did I do? And then next week, I started putting together what my real dream company would be, which is a marketing firm. And that's how White Label Studio was born.
Wow, that's an amazing story, because it's like a leap of faith that you took, and you're right, that sometimes you have to rip that Band-Aid off completely. Otherwise we inch towards something and never quite make it. I'm wondering, just listening to what you said here, because you talked about sort of this holistic view, that you did this not just for yourself but for your family. This was about reprioritizing your goals, right? I mean, you're standing there waiting to get your dream job, and so there's a bunch of questions, right? So one, I want you to talk about reprioritizing, but before we do that, talk about that intuition, you know, like that whatever that was feeling you had that made you realize you couldn't. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes we have our life so mapped out on paper. You know, I'm going to get married at this age. I'm going to have children at this age. You know, this is just an example because we all have our different paths.
Right.
And I'm going to be the youngest director at this Berkshire Hathaway company. I felt like I've measured so much of my life success by this superficial to-do list, if you will.
Wow.
But I was still feeling really empty inside. You know, sometimes that plan on paper might have looked good at the moment, or it might just look good on paper, but when you're really living it and you're really in the motion of it, it just doesn't feel right. And that's what was happening to me. I mean, here I'm in the interview process at this Fortune 500 company for this job that it's what I worked for almost 15 years to get to this point. However, my marriage wasn't being fulfilled. My children weren't getting everything they need out of their mother. My home was not being taken care of to the standard that I wanted. I didn't have hobbies. The creative muscle of marketing that's so important to us marketers, that was being suppressed because I was in this corporate engine. So it was just really a time for me to reprioritize and think, I want to build a company, which is now White Label Studio, and I have an amazing co-founder, Elisa which we can talk more about her later.
Okay.
But I want to build a company that puts family first and that puts faith first, which is different in today's time, right? And that's exactly what we set out to do.
Wow. And so this is a mixture of entrepreneurial spirit, of courage to actually, because you said this, right? We have these superficial to-do lists that I will be successful if I attain this at 25 years old and this at 30 years old, but we don't stop often and see how that feels. Is that really what's going to make me happy? And that's one of the things I find inspiring about you, is that you had two opportunities, right? There's Bridals by Lori, there's a business you could go into. Oh, there's this whole corporate world that you built. No, I'm going to take the path less traveled.
Yes.
And honor myself, which is absolutely amazing. Let's go ahead and, because I've got so many questions in my head. That piece about wanting to start a business that also had a sort of a spiritual foundation to it, on your website, everybody who works for you talks about that.
Yeah.
So what came first? You hired people who, like, you started a business with that intention. How did that come about?
Right. Well, I think because I have been in corporate marketing for 15 years, and for those of you who have been at different companies and kind of been around the block, you start to meet these really amazing people, and I had been filing them away in my head that if I ever leave, I'd love to work with this person again, or I really want to keep in touch with this person. They're really talented. So when my co-founder and I, Elisa decided to join forces and start White Label Studio together, because we both had a very similar vision and had worked at our previous company together, it was just all perfect timing, just serendipity. And Elisa and I started to call these people that we had worked with over the years that we thought would be amazing contractors to join the White Label Studio family. And we let them know, we want to run this business differently. We want faith and family to be first. We want to produce outstanding work for our clients, but we always want our core values to shine through. We want to give back. We want to love and support each other. We want a flexible work schedule. You're not in prison here. You're an adult. So those are the kind of values and mission statements that we started to formulate. And just everything comes back to faith. Elisa and I, we've gotten so big now. We have 29 brands that our agency works on.
Wow.
And these are national brands. And we definitely have stressful weeks. Last week, for example, I don't know what the alignment was when we're going on. It was just a little bit haywire. So we have those moments where we just have to center ourselves. We'll call each other and pray together. Mm-hmm. We'll say, is this really how we want to run our business? We don't argue, but we challenge each other. And so it really is at the center of our company.
That shows up on your website. There's something about, I don't know if it's the design of the website or what, but the calmness of White Label Studios, and the fact that you have a blog that is unique. The most recent blog is about being a single mom. So yeah. It isn't all about the business. One of the things, and maybe you want to talk about Elisa in here, is when you say faith, you're so open. I went through and read everybody's little statement, and everybody's faith process, perhaps, or their path is unique.
Yes.
Which again is like the fact that you were able to create that is just amazing to me. Was that a conversation you and Elise had in the beginning? Is that how you started the business?
Yeah, we definitely had our faith conversations at the beginning. But what's interesting is not everyone on our team is the same faith. Not everyone has the same sexuality, the same gender. We really have a very inclusive and diverse team. However, when we say faith, we mean that we believe in a higher being, and we believe that there is supernatural blessing and control ultimately over our business. And we're very open about that. We're unapologetic about who we are and what we believe. And we talk about faith in our client meetings, and some love it and some might squirm a little bit uncomfortably, but it's who we are. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I hope that our clients take heart that we really take our business seriously, we take how we spend their money seriously, and that we're answering to someone bigger than us.
That's amazing. So let me just pause for a minute here. If you just joined me, you've missed 20 great minutes of a show with Mollie Surratt from White Label Studios. You've got to Google her. Just go to whitelabelstudios.com and find her. She's amazing. You're listening to the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, the stream. And now I want to go back to this conversation with Mollie about the way you created something open. But you said something that I love. I love a lot of stuff you say, but about being unapologetically based in faith. I'm wondering if your ability to be unapologetically who you are, how that helped, because you've sort of alluded to that a few times. Unapologetic, working with my mom, love her, can't work with her. Corporate America, loved it, it was great, didn't work in my life. You're unapologetic, and I adore that. Do you think that helped you form a successful business?
Absolutely. I think it's taken me, I'm 38, and it's taken me a long time to get, here I look back at my 20s, and I was so worried about pleasing everyone and so worried about fitting into this perfect mold, which I think the mold is even worse for women in the South, the whole Stepford Wives, like we're all supposed to be a certain way. Mm-hmm. And I'm weird, y'all. I mean, true creatives and true entrepreneurs, we're a little bit quirky, we're a little bit different. I can be really introverted, I can be really extroverted. I'm a Virgo, which we've talked about. So anyway, I am who I am, and you are who you are. We all need to stop trying to fit into this certain perfect mold. And I'm actually loving a lot of the influencers on Instagram that I'm seeing talking about body positivity and just embracing who you are and being yourself. There's an Instagrammer that I've loved recently called It's the Nap Ministry, and she's encouraging people to not feel guilty about resting and resisting the grind that we all feel so obligated to follow, which has been really profound for me because I'm built on that go, go, go type of mentality, and I'm really trying to take those messages about resting to heart. So anyway, I love this renaissance, if you will, of coming back to who we really are.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, that we go through school with an achievement mindset. Get the A's, get the do better. And as an academic dean all those years, I can tell you that the person who got straight A's is not necessarily the best person in their field.
Right.
Because if you're working for your A's, that's different than working for understanding, for working to be good at what you're doing. And so I'm wondering, I just keep want to go down this pathway a little further, is that helping you have your clients be unapologetic about who they are? Because when I go to your website, you don't have mass branding going on. You're very individualized. So is that a message you give your clients also?
Absolutely. I really want our clients, every client that we work with at White Label Studio, we always dig in with a brand and marketing strategy first. And that's because I really want to be on the same page with the client about their voice, their tone, their target audience, their goals and objectives, what we're going to be measuring. And once we get all on the same song sheet, then we can dig in and get on the tactical side and start working with media and social and redesign their website and all that good stuff. But first, we've got to all be on the same page and figure out who they are. And I think as an entrepreneur overall, we're being paid for our opinion. We're being paid for our educated, guesses, explanations, and guidance. And so that's where I really had to come into my own and continue to fine-tune my confidence as a leader, because my clients want my opinion. That's what they're paying our team for.
You need to write a blog on that because that I've never heard it put that way, and that's just brilliant. We're being paid for our creative and educated opinion,
right?
Which is amazing and so brilliant. And we'll go in different directions, but I think this links to something on your website. You have a quote on your website: "The things you're passionate about are not random; they are your calling."
That's right.
To have that on the website's brilliant. So one of the things I'm wondering about is advice you can do. Let's shift just a little. 2020's been very hard on everyone, but especially women. And so many women now realize they maybe need a side hustle, or they need a plan A, B, and C, or that corporate life isn't necessarily safe and secure. What about this? What about finding your calling, or maybe listening to it? Can you talk to a lot of our listeners who are women trying to get the courage to rip the Band-Aid off? Can you speak to them a bit about that?
My mom is just such an amazing person, and she's beautiful and she's inspiring, and it's just been such a joy to watch her and be her daughter. What always intimidated me about my mom a little bit, which is interesting to think of, your mom intimidating you, but my mom always knew what she wanted to do. All throughout college and right after college, she knew that she wanted to own this bridal store. She stuck with it. It's been a business for over 40 years. But for me, I'm a little bit more of what you would consider a late bloomer. I got married a little bit later. My husband and I had our children a little bit later. I started my business in my late 30s versus, right after college. It just took me a little while to figure out what exactly my passions were and what I wanted to do, which I feel like is what I'm doing now, is what I was ultimately meant to do. We're all on on our own individual paths. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't compare your timeline to others. I know for me, I would never be able to own or co-found White Label Studio without having been in corporate marketing for 15 years and without having had my experience at Bridals by Lori. Those collective experiences gave me the knowledge to own the business that I do today. When you're finding your passions, I think that you've really got to just dig deep and think about what is going to make you happy, but what's going to make you happy is also going to, provide income for your family. And 2020 has, y'all, I'm homeschooling a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my 9-year-old has ADHD, as we discussed at the beginning. My husband is working from home with me, which I don't know how many of y'all enjoyed your husband's working from home and how many of y'all were like, getting his butt back to the office. Samples like from one end of the kitchen, the office, everywhere. So it was just a really interesting time. I loved the togetherness, and there were moments I thought, oh, this is so sweet. But then there were moments where I thought, is my business going to survive? A lot of our clients had to cut back. Some put on the gas pedal. Some were like, I want to be bigger in digital marketing than ever because so many people are on digital so much more. Others had to pump the brakes, so we had to adjust accordingly. My mom's business, Bridals by Lori, she's a client of ours naturally, and which we'll talk a little bit more about her book and some of our projects here in a second. But she really struggled. She had to close the store for a long period of time during the pandemic. So many weddings were canceled and postponed. So anyhow, 2020 took a toll on women, especially on moms. We were expected to truly be everything and do everything. So I hope that all of you out there are slowly starting to dig out of it a little bit, process what we've been through, give yourself grace if you've put on a few extra pounds, or I'm doing a green smoothie detox right now. Whatever it is, give yourself grace, but also it's time to focus. It's time to refocus.
So that's about prioritizing life, something you and I spoke about offline a bit, right? Yeah. And it's complicated, like you just said. You're homeschooling, you're launching a business. What if somebody came to you and they said, I really want to start a business? And you've already given some advice there. Would you say that this is a good time to do that? Is there ever a good time to do that?
It's just like with having children. There's never like the perfect time to start the business. I'll say if you feel that you have a solid business plan, great contacts to get started, and you have the experience that you need to be successful in that business, I would definitely ask some tough questions if someone came to me and said, I want to start a business. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. Owning a business is not easy. And my mom did not sugarcoat things for me either. She wasn't all gung-ho, like, go tomorrow and be an entrepreneur, because she knows how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. But you can do it. You absolutely can do it. But just make sure you ask yourself some hard questions first and ensure that you're truly ready to do it. And if you're, again, that's, I'm contradicting myself. You're truly ready to do it, but then you also have to just rip off the Band-Aid and just do it. So it's like, there's a happy medium there. But I think it's a great time to start a business. The time's never been better, especially with all the conversations, like I mentioned earlier, going on in social with, influencers and changing our lives and coming back to our authentic beings and women supporting women. Go for it.
I think you're so right about the time, but and you've said it in a few different ways, right? Don't follow that list of goals you wrote at like 16. By this age, I'll do that, right? Be holistic. Understand it has to work for you. Listen to your gut. I think you need to write a book, and I could write all these down and have the chapter headings for you, right? But listen to your gut. Also, something you didn't mention, but I can hear it in your story, is look at your life and all the lessons learned in different situations. You don't have to, you didn't stay in flooring, you didn't stay in bridal, but you learned a great deal from that, right? And you applied that in a direction that your heart took you. What's fascinating is so many people seem to think they have to continue on the path. You know, I've done flooring, maybe I could do interior design. And you really just went in a different direction. So
Right.
I think this is a combination. There's a question in here somewhere of all these elements you've talked about, and keeping the door open to other possibilities, which I have to say, I think you have a side hustle, and it's called your blog, right? Do you write the blog? Do you have other people write the blog? And again, it's
the whole team contributes to the blog
Okay.
topic. And Hope D'Angelo, who's our operations director, does most of the blog writing with my oversight on topics. But I love our blog because I wanted our blog not to just be a bunch of boring, like, how-to marketing topics. We do have some marketing know-how on the blog, but I wanted it to be about life. So, you know, Hope, for instance, just had a new baby, and she's re-entering the workforce after maternity leave and balancing that. And we talk about work over the pandemic, and I did a blog post with my little girls and homeschooling, and you know, so we're really digging into the meat of who we are as an agency, like at the core, at the heartbeat of who our people are and how we operate, and also, you know, with a little bit of the marketing know-how thrown in as well. But
right.
it's really fun. We all enjoy writing on our team.
So I could see that growing into a side hustle. I mean, I could see a book coming out of this. And if you just joined us, or if you've been listening, go to, it's whitelabelstudios.com. Is that right, Mollie? I have that right?
It's whitelabelstudio.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
No S in there. Okay. And look at the blog there, because these are real women with real lives, not researchers, saying, here's what worked for me, give it a try. And there's some very inspirational stuff in the blog. I love that. But since I keep bringing up a book, can we talk about the book? Because your mother and you
Yes.
wrote a book, right?
Absolutely. So if you tuned in at the beginning of the interview, I talked a little bit about when my mom and I worked together in high school and after college, and all our fun cat fights, which we lovingly joke about now. Well, since I've opened White Label Studio, of course, my mom was quick to support, and Bridals by Lori and the Lori Allen brand were among our first clients. So I've been working on, you know, her websites and branding and the Lori Allen social for a while now, and doing really well with all of that and her speaking engagements. So my mom called me one day, and she's like, we've always tossed around a lot of different book ideas. You know, do we go more the bridal route? Where do we go with this? But my mom called me one day, and she goes, Mollie, I want to write a book that's part memoir, part self-help guide for women over 50, because I just keep, my mom's 62, you never know it. I mean, she's so active.
She's gorgeous too. She's amazing.
And she takes great care of herself, but she's so big on women being fully who they are. So you see where I get a lot of my, you know-how there. But she wanted to inspire women over 50 to embrace the next chapter of their lives. And she was really talking this through. So she came up to the White Label Studio office, like captivated me in an office for 2 days and fed me Starbucks and Starburst. I lived off of like sugar and coffee, I believe, for 2 days. And she would talk and I would write. So we put together a full chapter outline, and then we started summarizing some of the other concepts for the book. We later ended up hiring a ghostwriter, Kay Deal, who was amazing to help us. But together, the three of us women wrote Say Yes to What's Next, which launched last year. It's available for sale, of course, on Amazon. It was a #1 new release in 5 different categories on Amazon, which was such a blessing because it launched in the middle of the pandemic last July. Not great timing in terms of a launch. But this book has been such a godsend to so many women. Women in their 30s, 40s, and especially the over 50 crowd, because my mom's talking about hard conversations about raising adult children, about really owning your finances as a woman. She's talking about the difficulties of marriage and where she and my dad are now as empty nesters. So a lot of really great behind the scenes, talks a lot about her breast cancer journey, which I don't know how many of you watched her award-winning special, Say Yes to the Cure. She is a breast cancer survivor. I believe her journey was 8 or so years ago now, but she still has side effects and repercussions from her breast cancer journey, and that's well documented in the book. So it was just such, I mean, how awesome to sit down with your parent and put together something like this. It's an experience my mom and I will never forget, and she wrote such a sweet note to me, and I'll read it out of the dedications in the book, and I'll try not to cry. My daughter Mollie, thank you, Mollie, for walking this journey with me from our first phone call about the idea for the book until the hour we turned in the final manuscript. We did this together. You have helped me pin my legacy, and it's been beyond special. So,
that is
really amazing.
So beautiful. Yeah. I could tell, so I've read the book. I've given the book to a few friends. I've recommended it to others. If you missed the title, it is Say Yes to What's Next. And there was a few things I love that I wanted to ask about, sort of how you're also influenced by that. Her sense of humor comes through, and this interesting southern, I guess it's southern charm. I grew up in Los Angeles, so I don't actually have a big experience of this, except maybe some of the jokes that people make, right? That if somebody tells me they love me to death, I should make sure there's no poison in my tea. But there's this rich southern genteel kindness in the book. Can you just talk about that for a bit for those of us? Yeah, I have no idea.
I call her a modern Southern belle.
Okay.
She was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee, spent some of her childhood in Ohio, and then relocated back to South Carolina and then Georgia. But she, she'll bless your heart, and she'll talk about, she just has the funniest Southern sayings. Okay, this one's kind of inappropriate, but if you've ever heard a turd in a punch bowl. So that means when you bring up something that's really uncomfortable, like, her ex-husband walked in the room and it went over like a turd in a punch bowl. She's got she could write a book just on her Southern sayings. I mean, hilarious. So she definitely has a witty sense of humor. She's just a mess.
But that sense of kindness, so that's the humorous side that we hear about often.
Yeah, very kind, very generous. She's always helping people and doing things that I have no idea. And she's had some brides that have come from really tragic backgrounds, and she does everything she can to make sure that they walk down the aisle in the dress of their dreams. So I really admire her philanthropic heart for sure.
So you also incorporate that into your business. You have not a philanthropic arm, but you have we'll talk about that, right? On your website, it's yes, and very prominent, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that as part of your business.
Yeah, part of our faith mission in our business, we feel like, is giving back. For me personally, as a Christian, I feel like Jesus called us to live sent, right? To go out into the world and live sent. And so that's my church's mission statement. So anyway, I am very passionate about several community organizations, as is Elise. I work a lot in the breast cancer space with my mom. Elise is on the board of Life Changers Legacy, and it's all about prison reform. She specifically works with women, and she'll go in, pre-COVID, and now she's just kicking this back up. She'll go and teach Bible studies and minister to prisons, particularly women's prisons. And she's on the board of this organization that's trying to build housing and job programs and reentry programs. And she's just an incredible, that's just one among many things, but that's the organization she highlights on our website. The organization I chose to highlight on our website in giving back is the Pull Movement, which started locally here in Georgia by a good friend of mine, and now I'm on the board. But it's about talking about race in a different way. It's all about eliminating checking the box, those days are over of white, black, Native American, Hispanic. We're all human, right? We are all part of one single human race. So it's a new way of looking at diversity and inclusion. It's seeing the beauty in color while also acknowledging the fact that we're really all the same. Our hearts beat all the same way. And so it's been an honor to help my friend build the pool movement. I love seeing the traction he's getting there.
It's so interesting because you talked about like influencers on Instagram, and what you just said, I think probably shakes people's assumptions about the South.
Yes.
Right? So, and you're not saying this to change people, you're saying this because this is who you are.
This is who I am. This is what I believe. This is how I was raised. I come from a very loving, accepting, open-minded home. So I feel like a lot of these, they say if you want to change the world, start at home, start at your own dinner table. And that was the case for me, and that's how I'm raising my children. And it is a little bit a different way of thinking, or people don't think we think like this in the South, y'all, but a lot is happening here in the South. We're progressing, we're moving up, and we're having important conversations that need to be had, especially after the year we had last year. So I'm loving it.
Wow. So do you see that infuse? I mean, this will probably sound like a silly question because it does infuse your business. I'm wondering how, I don't know how to ask this question well. If I want to start a business and infuse it with my values, my integrity, everything you just talked about, how do I start? What was the seed where you, and I guess Elise, started that conversation?
Yeah, I would say, when we sat down, anyone can open a marketing agency. Anyone can do PR, anyone can do freelance work or contractor work. But we truly wanted to start an agency that was a home for people to land. All of our employees are contractors. However, they're contractors that have a steady income, amazing clients, and a wonderful support system in White Label Studio. And so when we sat down to build our business, it's not only about the ROI and the business plan and all the things that look good on paper, going back to the earlier part of our interview about what looks good on paper. It's about who you are and how you are going to translate this holistic view of who you are and what you believe and carry that through your company. Really, your company can be an extension of your ministry in a way, or an extension of your life goal, your passion, what you feel like your purpose is in this world. And so I want to use that purpose for good to provide income to our team, who each person I sincerely love, but more than income, provide support.
So you make it sound easy, and I was in the corporate world. My first career, I was in academia. Everybody has lovely mission statements. Help our listeners. Let me back up. You have such resilience. It's something you've also learned, I think, and this sort of do things with grace. So this juxtaposition of toughness and grace,
Yes.
of graciousness and commitment. I mean, it's an interesting mixture, and in there is a focus on how the foundation from which I will grow this company. And we also talked about this superficial goals. How do I live it beyond just having a mission statement?
Absolutely. I mean, we don't have this perfect elevator speech mission statement. I mean, our website, it's infused in who we are and everything we do on every page, what we believe. White Label Studio, the term white label is all about being behind the scenes. We're not one of those agencies that's flashy and wants everything to be about our agency. It's about our clients, right? That is what our business is about. We are behind the scenes helpers, behind the scenes marketers. We want you as the client to thrive and survive. And that's what brings me happiness, right? Is helping all these other businesses do well and meet their goals. That is very fulfilling to both Elise and I. I think that it's all in the leadership, right? It is waking up every day and saying, I'm going to run my business according to these beliefs that I have. And you're going to mess up some days. You're going to have tough days. You're going to have tough decisions to make with clients. You're going to have ethical dilemmas. You're going to have hard conversations with your employees, right? And you still have to remind yourself, you know, whether I have an employee whose mother is in her final stages of life, passing away, you know, another employee who's balancing new motherhood, another employee who is a cancer survivor, another employee who's taking care of an elderly sister-in-law. The list goes on. We've all got the stuff of life that we're dealing with, right? In addition to work. That's why I appreciate this holistic view of work. I sincerely care about both my people and my clients. What's going on in their personal lives, their parents, their spouses, their children, their pets. What's going on in their faith walk? How are you really doing? And that is how Elise and I work to run this business, is truly caring about our people and our community.
So do you think that being women, I mean, that's maybe a controversial statement, but do you think the fact that it's a woman-owned and run business and that your mentor is a woman, that had a major impact on being able, on this holistic view?
I do. I've had great male bosses and I've had great female bosses, and I think that men can take a more holistic view, absolutely, to the running of their organizations. But actually being in the trenches of motherhood with a husband who travels often, 2 small children, loving to work but trying to fit it in with my personal life, right? I mean, and Elise is the same way. Her children are now graduated from college, but she had similar challenges as well. So anyway, we both have been in the trenches ourselves. We both understand what it's like, and that's why our perspective as women is different, because we've been there.
Right. I'm thinking that women who are not going into business and have no desire to do that and still struggle because they were homeschooling and, you know, they're stay-home moms perhaps, and they're whatever, and guys who are stay-home dads, that this notion of waking up every day and giving yourself time to sort of sink into your values and your beliefs, which you spoke about, which is on your website, which is one of the recent blogs, that do you see that also helping just people in general, not just, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every day I think we as women, and especially as moms, need to claim a little bit of time for ourselves to breathe. And if anyone understands how hard that is, I do. Especially in the Christian community, people talk a lot about, you know, waking up first thing in the morning and having your quiet time before everyone's awake. And for those of you that get that done, I mean, I applaud you. I am a horrible morning person. My dogs want to be let out and fed. My little one wakes up before the sun rises with the chickens, you know. So morning quiet time, most of the time, is not in the cards for me. However, I do try to steal away some time to just like sit on the back porch if it's warm out or whatever, put the phone down. Or if I want to look at my Bible app, I'll do that. I will allow the phone for that. But just to recalibrate a little bit, you know, to think my day through, think about different conversations I had and decisions I made, if I felt good about those things, if I need to apologize, revisit anything, say, you know, some little prayers or meditations. And then when I cannot emphasize the importance of exercise enough. You know, when you get into your late 30s, early 40s, exercise becomes a lot less about looking good and a lot more about feeling good and managing your stress and anxiety, which, like, talk about anxious, nervous Nelly over here. And exercise, y'all, even just 2 or 3 times a week, if you're not currently active, try your best to make it happen.
And it can be easy. It can be a walk, right? So walk the dog or put the kids in the stroller or take the kids and just just walking.
A yoga video on YouTube, you know,
Mm-hmm.
of course, be safe, consult your doctor. I'm not a professional, but yeah, definitely carve out some time for exercise.
Right. So, believe it or not, we're just coming to the end of our time. Let me circle back to my tagline, which is igniting a renaissance of spirit. You've talked about really what does inspire you, which it sounds like working with your clients. But how do you, so there's two questions. The first is, do you have a key to staying inspired right through all the stuff we just talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are definitely days as a business owner that you're like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? You know?
What was I thinking?
Yeah, I'm like, oh my goodness, you know? And then now there's so many ways people can get in touch with you. There's Facebook messaging, they're text messaging, they're emailing, they're calling, and it's so hard, you know, they're Instagramming, direct messaging you. So it's like, it's just so hard to keep up with all of the different touch points and all of the different noise and methods of communication. I really try to stay inspired by taking those little mental breaks and recalibrating and remembering why I started White Label Studio to begin with, remembering why I love marketing to begin with, having those heartfelt conversations with my team members and even my clients. Those are the things that keep me going, the real life moments, the authentic moments, and that's what I live for. And I have this t-shirt I got from Target. It says, empower. I should have worn it today. I have on a little Dolly Parton graphic tee today.
We love Dolly Parton, yes.
My Target t-shirt I'm talking about says empowered women, or empower women, empower women, or empowered women, empower women. That's it.
Okay.
So it's all about the fact that if I'm empowered and I'm filling up my tank, I get to empower other women.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely want other women to succeed. And if you're a woman watching this, ask yourself that. Do you genuinely want other women to succeed? If you do, live like it. Act like it. Be the biggest cheerleader for other women who are trying to make it. So that's, to me, that is at the center of who I am, how my mother, Lori, raised me, and the message that I want to leave is that if you have a passion, make it happen and empower others along the way.
And we're actually going to close the show with that thought. So if you've missed the show, trust me, it'll be on my website, elisarava.com. It'll be on my YouTube site. It'll repeat on Twitter. You'll have lots of ways. And honestly, you might want to just listen to it again. Mollie, you are such a gift to have on this show. If you decide to write a book, I have notes to help you, because
it definitely is on my bucket list. So
absolutely.
I appreciate that.
And I need to tell you, one of my things on my bucket list is coming to Bartles by Lori. I don't need a wedding dress, but boy, do I want to come see the store and try on something.
Anytime, we'd love to host you.
Awesome. So if you have listened, thank you. If you've missed it, please listen again or pick this show back up on my website. And thank you for joining me. This is the Dr. Elisa Show, and we're signing off. And until I see you in 2 weeks, please stay well, stay inspired, and as you just heard Mollie say to you, stay authentic to who you are. In fact, unapologetically authentic. Have a great 2 weeks.